The views and opinions expressed on the Veterans in Politics show and podcast are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Night Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.
This is Steve Sanson. Without Jim Jonas today on the Veterans in Politics show. Jim is out sick, but we're supposed to have a backup co-host is Dr. Annette Teijeiro, who is a candidate for Nevada State Senate District 5. And I talked to her at the last minute, but she should be here hopefully after the commercial. But we're going to have two guests today. The first guest is going to be Tyron Givens, who is a spokesperson for the Occupation Party. And then we're going to talk to Donald Mosley, retired Clark County District Court judge. But before we get into any of our guests, I'd just like to congratulate the folks that ran unopposed. Yesterday was the closing of the filing for this year's election. And the candidates that automatically going to win the election because they have nobody opposing them, or first candidate is or elected official and current official is Marilyn Kirkpatrick, who's the assemblywoman for District 1, John Hambrick, who is the assemblyman for District 2, Harvey Munford, who is the assemblyman for District 6, Olivia Diaz, who's the assemblywoman for District 11, Richard Carello, who's the assemblyman for District 18, and Linda Young, who is the school board trustee for Clark County District C. So those folks are going to maintain their seat because I don't know if they had nobody credible that could run against them, or they just didn't have anybody at all that could run against them. But I always don't like to see people that run an election unopposed. I like to see some fire there. I like to see people going after a seat and challenging the incumbent for some reason. I don't think Judge Mosley might agree with me, but that's just my take on things. But you know something, folks? I don't know if any of you heard about that soldier in Afghanistan that killed 16 Afghan civilians in the village. They just released his name. I believe it was yesterday, and it's Army Staff Sergeant Robert Bales, who served 11 years in the Army. And I don't know if anybody would believe me, but this is a form of post-traumatic stress disorder. Somebody just don't go around killing people like that. And the reports that I was reading a few days ago say there was 9 kids that was part of the 16 that was killed. Then apparently he burned the bodies afterwards, and then he surrendered while he was approaching the military installation. And we just need to take care of our veterans when they come back, because to avoid situations like this, I always say that a police officer and a military personnel is always on the fence to be either good or evil. And sometimes they go on the good side and they serve their community, or they become an outstanding citizen, or they become police officers, or whatever the case might be, or they go on the other side and they become criminals. And it's very easy for a police officer and a military service member to be either one of those. So just food for thought. A friend of mine sent me this email, and I want to read it. It says, "We idolize and moralize Whitney Houston, yet looked the other way concerning her well-known substance abuse and disenfranchised with her former husband Bobby Brown." And then we have Michael Jackson's, he also passed away and he had substance abuse. And then we had Charlie Sheen. he was all over the news, and he had substance abuse and adultery and all kinds of other stuff. And then we have Lindsay Lohan, 24. She was all over the news with her addiction and her shoplifting. And then we have Kim Kardashian with her wedding or short-lived marriage. But we don't talk about any of the service members that passed away in combat. I mean, we don't hear nothing about them anymore. And let me just tell you the service members that passed away just last month alone. You have Justin Allen, 23, Brett Lindley, 29, Matthew Wilkert, 29, Justice Bartlett, 27, Dave Santos, 21, Jesse Reed, 26, Matthew Johnson, 21, Zachary Fisher, 24, Brandon King, 23, Christopher Gayko, 23, Sheldon Tate, 27. These are all Marines that gave their lives for this country. And I don't know if the war is still over in Afghanistan or not, but our troops are still dying, so that's just food for thought. Don't go away, folks. We're going to take a commercial break. This is Steve Sanson with Veterans in Politics, and we're going to come back momentarily with Tyron Givens, spokesperson for the Occupation Party.
Hey, listen up. If you're a military veteran, if you're related to a veteran, or if you know a veteran, you'll enjoy the Veterans Reporter radio show every Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. with me. I'm your host, Chuck N. Baker. Every week, we will explore veterans' issues and we'll have guests who will talk about topics of interest to and about the veterans community. And if you don't listen, you'll have to give me 20 push-ups.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
That's the sound of On Wheels Now, every Tuesday at 6 p.m.
If you like cars,
The smell of gasoline and rubber,
or just love motorsports and auto racing,
On Wheels Now is your inside look at local motorsports.
so don't miss the action.
We'll keep you in the loop with the latest local racing news.
We're race car drivers too, so join me, Michael,
and Mike, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Find us at onwheelsnow.com.
This public service announcement is brought to you by Veterans in Politics International. The Veterans in Politics mission is to teach, educate, organize, and awaken our veterans and their families to select, support, and vote intelligently for a better world, and to protect ourselves from our own governments and a culture of corruption, and to be the political voice for those in other groups that do not have one.
There are too many homeless veterans, and more help is needed from the VA. Every veteran service organization post should adopt a local homeless veteran.
The funding of VA medical centers is inadequate, and building a VA hospital in southern Nevada is moving at a slow pace. The budget has been flatlined for too many years. The VA is too quick to deny claims and too slow to help veterans gather records in support of claims.
Local politicians ignore veterans and their issues. They perceive a lack of organization among their local veterans, and that it won't hurt them at election time. Veterans too often vote party, not veteran issues. All veterans should vote in every election.
The news media give inadequate coverage to veteran issues and events. You must send letters to the editor and voice this concern.
Please contact your members of Congress and Senate and urge them to co-sponsor key legislation in supporting our veterans.
Please support Veterans in Politics. And to get more information, go to www.veteransinpolitics.com.
Well, I have my special guest co-host, Dr. Annette, to help me.
I'll help you. It's Dr. Annette Teijeiro.
Teijeiro. So the J is silent, huh?
It's like an H sound, because that's the way it is.
Well, Dr. Annette is a candidate for State Senate District 5, and I kind of roped her in at the very last minute to come here today because of Jim Jonas not being here today because of his unexpected sickness. But anyways, Doctor, could you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? Well,
absolutely. You know, I am an anesthesiologist, and a concerned citizen like everybody else, and that's why I'm running for State Senate District 5. I have basically, my family has lived here for over 36 years, and I have 3 children, and I have a husband who is a Vietnam-era vet.
Ah, that's cool. Does he have PTSD?
No, he doesn't. He actually works at the Air Force Base at the Michael Callahan Hospital in their anesthesia department.
Ah, so he's a doctor as well.
No, he's a nurse anesthetist, but he works in the anesthesia.
What?
A nurse anesthetist.
Oh, I've never heard of such animal.
You have.
Nurse anesthetist.
Well, they use them in the Air Force.
Okay. Well, Doc, we have this guest. His name is Tyron Givens. He's the spokesperson for the Occupation Party, and let's see what he has to say. Tyron, are you on there?
I am. It's good to hear you.
All right, Tyron, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your party?
I am the spokesperson for the Occupation Party. My name is Tyron Givens. Personally, I did my first tour to theater over in Iraq back in 2003 with the Navy through ACU-4. It's a LCAX program out of Virginia Beach.
All right.
We've taken our local Occupy down in Clifton near Cincinnati, Ohio, and we've turned it into a political party. It's our firm belief that direct action and occupying public squares is only going to get us so far. It serves to raise awareness. It serves to get participation levels raised higher, but there has to be a bigger picture and an end game. And the only way to see that achieved is through the system, through politics.
Tyron, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Dayton, Ohio right now.
Okay. The Occupation Party, are they in any relation to the Occupation Wall Street?
We are working closely with OWS, and a lot of our ideas are sanctioned through them, and we've actually been through their GA and through their OWS working political and reform group several times. We work closely with several members, but we're not officially tied together with them. We have a separate autonomy from OWS.
All right, well, maybe you could explain something. I saw a photo of one of the Occupation Party that was on Wall Street actually taking a crap on the American flag. What does that symbolize?
That would be actually very tasteless. I will have to correct you, though. We don't have any members who've taken part in anything like that. I think what you're confusing our political party with an actual activist party gathering that was held sometime last year.
Yeah, but
that incident.
They call themselves the Occupation Party as well. So I'm just trying to understand what you're saying, because that's what they call themselves.
Right, and I should draw a clear distinction. We're the 527. We're registered as a political party.
And they're just gone rogue, or what?
Well, gone rogue would imply that they were ever associated with us. We wouldn't even need to distance ourselves, because we're not associated with anyone from that group and never have been.
Okay, because they also was holding up signs, and the signs were says FUCK the troops as well. Do you know anything about that?
I do know about that, but again, I personally am a combat veteran. I was also a 19 Delta 20 in my second deployment in 2005, so I personally would not put my name on or support any political group that would take part in any type of activity like that.
So let me ask you something. If you were just an observer and you was to see something like this, what would you do about it, if anything?
What each one of us should do. If you see something that you definitely don't agree with, or it challenges your morals and your position, you have to take a stand against it. I would definitely call that out and make sure people knew that that wasn't acceptable behavior. Before I would address the fact that they're not associated with us, I would address the fact that that's not acceptable behavior to begin with.
Okay, so tell me what's your cause? What is your Occupation Party? What do you guys? What's your beliefs? What are you guys trying to get accomplished?
Well, as a new third party, initially we were trying to get the two-party system kind of reined in a little bit, in a nutshell. But to expand on that some, it's our belief that the two existing major parties are not doing a good enough job representing the middle class and the working class American citizen. we have to do that ourselves. And so through our party, we're trying to promote school teachers, firefighters, veterans, anyone who's had a hand in building this country to take a more active role in leading it and having a say in how it works. We can't operate anymore through these people who represent us and their only talent is perpetual campaigning.
You know, I have a candidate that's my co-host. Maybe she wants to jump in.
Yeah, I'm running on the Republican ticket, and yes, I do have a primary. Is there a reason why the Occupy party doesn't want to work within the other parties? You said you kind of hinted toward it, but...
Well, I'm sorry. Have you had any time to familiarize yourself with our website at all? We're all inclusive. Our administration team is filled with people who are former Ron Paul supporters, current Ron Paul supporters, left-wing Democrats. It's not a party of parties. It's a party of middle-class people. It doesn't matter what your background is.
Right, and both parties are actually, both the Democrat Party and the Republican Party are full of middle-class people, too. So I just wanted to know maybe what your platform or difference was from the two parties.
Well, our party is about populism, social equality, income equality. We need to eliminate or at least manage responsibly the influence of money in politics. And whether you're middle class or not in the existing parties, that just isn't the case. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, the lobbyists rule Capitol Hill. And our party seeks to kind of end that stranglehold. And that's actually why we can't work within the existing parties, because they're already toxic and filled with money and politics.
Tyron, are you is your party affiliated with the state of Nevada? Because I don't remember seeing your party on any of the ticket.
We don't have a standing in Nevada yet. We're concentrating on Ohio, Florida, Michigan. We're supporting Lance Enderle, who happens to be a Democrat, but he's very populist and very involved in Occupy Lansing. And we're also supporting candidates in New York. Corey Ray, actually, is one of our foremost candidates running for state assembly in New York.
So what's the number of your membership?
Physical members, we're just starting out. We're above 20 at latest count. What we're doing right now is kind of consolidating our volunteer base and our support base and hoping to grow that. We're looking for more candidates right now. We're obviously trying to raise money to promote those candidates. And we're building alliances such as Progressive Majority and the National Forum on Judicial Accountability.
Well, besides the two major parties, the Republicans and the Democrat, there's also the Libertarian, the Green Party, and the Independent American Party, if I think I named them all. What's your take on those other three parties? The IAP, the Libertarian, and the Green Party.
Well, I'll answer that.
And why do we need another party?
Well, I think the existing parties have had several years to get off the ground. They're going to achieve what they're going to achieve, and they already have their message solidified.
And when you say
that,
are you counting all five parties, or are you just looking at the two major ones?
Well, when I speak about the two major parties, I'm focusing like a laser on the Republicans and the Democrat because they have all the power.
Well, what about so why didn't you guys join the Libertarians or the IAPs or the Green Party instead of creating another party? Don't you think that might just dilute the whole party system? People just spreading off and creating another party instead of making one party for the people?
Well, I would say that, but the Libertarians and the Green Party don't necessarily carry the message that the Occupy movement carries. The Occupy movement is a totally separate entity. It carries its own message from those two groups, and so they would need their own party. They've got a base and a voting bloc already. They just need to focus it politically and carry their message into Congress. That's the point of the party, is to occupy Congress.
And what about the IAP?
I have the same answer. Some things are very similar among the minority parties.
What about the Tea Party? I failed to mention them. What about them?
It's my understanding that the Tea Party is not actually a political party. They are a right-wing group within the Republican Party. And if that's incorrect, somebody can correct me on that, but they're not exactly a 527, are they?
No, I don't think they are.
But I'm not discounting them, and I'm not excluding anyone. We have Tea Partiers who are a part of our party as well.
So then they're not Tea Partiers anymore. They're Occupation Party, right?
Well, I'm speaking to their background, though.
Okay.
The point I'm trying to make is we're all inclusive, and we get people from all different parties and all different backgrounds.
So what is the message of the Occupation Party?
We really need to have social equality. We really need to definitely balance the budget. We can't do that by preying on people who can't defend themselves, the poor and the middle class, who seem not to have a representation because we can't afford it in Washington. We really need to pass legislation reining in the power of lobbyists and the influence of money. That's the crux of the party right there. We need to get more people involved in this democracy because it only works when more people participate.
But isn't that the same message of the IAP?
It's the same means. It's not the same ends.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, several people would like to employ more all-inclusive participation, every citizen, everyone vote, but that doesn't necessarily mean we want the same things in the end.
So what do you want in the end?
We want politicians to be accountable to the people again, not accountable to those who happen to be lobbyists, who pay the most, and who write their legislation for them.
But let me play devil's advocate. Aren't they accountable to the people when election comes up, and can't the people vote them out?
But who do we get? You trade one politician who's sworn to the dollar for another one who's sworn to the dollar. It's kind of like a horse race where Wall Street owns all the horses.
You know something, Tyron? I've always said this to candidates that I see. There's many times that candidates run for a particular office for the right reasons. I mean, they want to stop crooked politicians. They want to serve the people. They want to help the people get back on their feet with the economy, with the foreclosure, with whatever. But once they get in office, and I've noticed this time and time again, after a couple of years they change. Now it's not about serving the people. Now it's about serving themselves. And I've seen that with a lot of politicians. So how do you think the Occupation Party is going to divert from that? Because that's just human nature. That's just, you're a human first. So no matter what you join, you're still going to levitate to being self-serving in some capacity, whether it's power or money or something of that nature.
Well, I can't totally agree with that statement, because some people are just...
What parts do you agree with?
I agree with the part that the culture in Washington changes anyone to a degree when they come there. The establishment in Washington is such that we could send anyone to Washington and they're going to be influenced by the organization that exists.
Okay.
We need to change the culture by introducing a new party where politicians are sworn to the party and to the people. Because our party is not just a party. We're asking our candidates to, within reason, and as much as is practical, to operate their seats as in a way that promotes general consensus, input from the people, not just at election time, but throughout the year during crucial bills and whatnot. And that means they'll be constantly involved in bills that are voted on, instead of voting on someone, firing and forgetting them as, like an LRAS or something, a javelin, and then you vote for them again when you're either overall pleased or not. We need to keep people constantly engaged throughout the entire process and hear their voices throughout every bill that's voted on, instead of just every 2 or 4 years.
So that's
how you change the culture.
So you're saying that
the people in the party.
You're saying that they only meet with the people when it's time for election, basically.
Or when people have certain needs. An overwhelming number of constituents really only know or engage with their politicians when they have specific issues that affect them or their communities. Then you see letters being written, and then you see sensationalized media stories about how so-and-so's politician helped out a certain person, and it's always in time for election season.
So what part of my statement don't you agree with?
I don't agree with the part where it's just human nature. We're all different. I have to believe that there's someone out there like me who would go to Washington and actually try to reform it, and not just give a really good campaign speech and then do the exact opposite when they get elected.
Have you ran for office before, Tyron?
I have never run for office.
Okay. So you can't really say that's not a true statement then.
Well, I'm just saying I don't necessarily agree with it entirely.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a big planet. Someone out there really cares for the people like they care for themselves, and they just haven't been elected yet.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that you need to realize, Tyrone, whatever party that you're going to put your energy into, candidates, when they go forth like I have, I'm not a career politician and come out of the citizenry, they really need help and support from the constituents 100% of the time. It's difficult running as a candidate, even in one of the large parties. So there has to be a huge support system and constant interaction with the constituents if you're going to be a good representative of the people. I don't know that your party over another party will necessarily get that done. But for me, I'm a citizen of Nevada, and I'm very concerned, and that's why I'm running. And I will always be open to my constituents. And I don't want to be a career politician.
I totally agree with that statement, and I definitely support what you're doing.
And you know something, Tyron, I think to end corruption in D.C., maybe there should be term limits on the U.S. Senate and Congress. That's how you can end corruption.
Well, yes and no, but I happen to believe that as it stands, Wall Street and lobbyists can afford politicians every term limit, whether they're extended or shortened. I also believe that they can afford several other parties, including this one. That's why we have to have rigid and purist standards for candidates that come in. Furthermore, that's why the party is laser focused around the idea of getting money out of politics, because you can have 6-month term limits. Wall Street can afford a politician every 6 months. Someone's just not going to get a golden parachute this year.
So how could a person join the Occupation Party?
We have a form on our website, theoccupationparty.org, under volunteers, and they can help in any capacity that suits them best on any time frame that they have.
You want to provide that contact information?
It's theoccupationparty.org. My personal email is tyrone.givens@theoccupationparty.org. There's a volunteer sign-up sheet located on the contacts page itself.
And what type of groups do the Occupation Party focus on bringing on board?
Anything that has to do with grassroots. As long as your message is a populist one, then you're in. We're not in the business of excluding anyone. All voices are valuable. Everyone needs to be heard. We really have a really relaxed standard for getting people involved.
And
everyone's welcome.
And why did you join them?
I joined them because as an occupier down in Clifton, I realized that people were coming down, but the older crowd who couldn't afford to quit working and occupy 24/7, the people who lived long distances and had other aspects to their lives that prevented them from being 24-hour occupiers, they're interested in a big picture. The question I kept getting was, well, who are you going to vote for? Who's really listening to what you're saying? And if you don't have a plan, you're going to start losing people's interest, and people aren't going to take you seriously. Well, here's that chance. We can start representing ourselves. We can build a party around citizen candidates who are not interested in being career politicians.
Okay. I remember you were saying that you try to focus on getting veterans, and how do you go about doing that, and why would veterans want to join the Occupation Party?
Well, as a veteran myself, I believe if you fight for these freedoms, you should be at the front of the line to make sure you exercise them and show other people how to properly exercise these rights and freedoms. Furthermore, in my recent experience as an activist, I'm learning that it's going to take more than the veteran community. Even though we have to lead from the front, communities of veterans, families of veterans, all of us need to be more involved. Everyone needs to participate in this democracy, not just every election cycle.
So what's your message?
It's a parity sport.
What's your message for returning veterans from the combat zone?
Personally, I believe that we're not doing enough to support our veterans when they come back. On the onset side, we're doing everything to gear them up and train them well and send them over. And now we're arming and protecting our soldiers well with vehicles and up armor that we didn't have in 2003. However, we need to be doing more. So my advice for veterans is, first, get your own house in order. Seek help. Participate in all the opportunities that they have set for you, and then explore what we don't really know about. Go to the VA, get registered, participate in the groups, and then get involved in politics. It's what you just got done preserving and helping to maintain for the next generation. We need to be as involved in it as anyone else.
Okay. Doc, you have anything else for Tyron?
Well, does the Occupy Party have in one of its basic missions to make sure that our military's ballots are counted so that their voices are heard? That's a pretty chronic problem.
Absolutely. We're drafting a measure right now. Our senior editor is working on a platform item that addresses that, as well as many other methods of, I don't want to go with voter suppression because that's a little strong, but there are a lot of different ways where certain blocks of voters' votes are not counted. And so veteran and foreign deployment votes also are at the top of that list and really need to be addressed.
Do you know that for a fact?
I know it firsthand from people I've spoken to when I was on deployment. I don't have current statistics for that now.
Okay.
But if you look at Florida back in 2000, that's a huge controversial topic, but it did occur.
Okay. So, Tyron, do you have anything else?
I would just say one of the biggest questions that we get is, are you going to support a presidential candidate this year? The answer to that is no. We don't want to take on that perceived role to swing the vote in any direction, either or. We will not support any candidate for president this year. Instead, we will wait for our better chance when we're stronger and both parties have to primary each other in 2016.
Okay. Doc?
Okay, sounds like you're on your way. Of course, we'd love to hear what the rest of your platform is involved. In the United States of America, everybody has a right to have or to be part of whatever party they believe in. And, of course, because of these freedoms, we welcome everybody.
All right, Tyron, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was my pleasure.
That's Tyron Givens, spokesperson for the Occupation Party. Don't go away, folks. We'll be back with Donald Mosley, retired Clark County District Court Judge. This is Steve Sanson and Dr. Annette Teijeiro.
Teijeiro, you got it.
Candidate for Nevada State Senate District 5.
While growing up, I've always asked my family, who is my father? I was told the name of a man. When I became older, I looked for this man and found him. He thought that I was his son as well, but after a DNA test, it was discovered that my family was lying to me all my life. I pressured my family to give me the real identity of my father. I then became suspicious and took my grandfather's DNA. After I buried my grandfather, 2 days later I discovered that my grandfather was in fact my biological father. I questioned myself and asked, what is my purpose on this earth? I should have never been conceived. But when I look at my 4 children, I knew that everything happens for a reason. This is Steve Sanson. Find your identity.
Hello, Las Vegas. I'm Karen Steelman, president of Las Vegas Tea Party, bringing your voice to the air Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Are you tired of politics as usual? Do you want to be more involved? Do you want to put a stop to out-of-control government policies? On We the People, we will discuss the political topics of the day and find real solutions. No parties, no labels, just Americans. Be here Wednesdays at 7 p.m. with We the People, where your voice is heard.
Veterans in Politics takes a proactive approach to provide you, the veteran, with the political voice for which you fought and served.
Veterans in Politics is becoming the premier veteran organization of the 21st century, with political candidate interviews, insight, and endorsements.
Public speaking engagements in support of American values.
Radio shows to keep you updated on the latest in veteran and military support operations.
Providing job placement and business support.
Go to veteransinpolitics.com today and do your part in defending liberty.
Sweet Cheeks, the fat chinista with the curvaceous bounty of Sin City. Join myself, Alexia, Sierra, and Calypso on Sunday nights from 7 to 10 at VegasAllNetRadio.com. I'll show you how stylish it is to feel good about yourself, love self at any size, show your arms, dress cute, and walk proud. Check us and our cleavages out at SinCityBounty.com.
Well, we're back. This is Steve Sanson with Dr. Annette Teijeiro, candidate for Nevada State. Nevada State Senate District 5, excuse me. Well, we got Judge Donald Mosley, retired Clark County District Court Judge. Judge, how you doing today?
I'm fine, Steve.
You got a radio voice, you know that? I always say that to you. You ever thought about doing radio, Judge?
Well, maybe that'll be another career now that I'm retired.
Yeah. So what's going on? Talk to me. Give us a bio.
Well, I was raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I have a twin brother. We came out here.
Just two of you?
Yes, there's two of us.
Oh, my God.
My brother was at Nellis Air Force Base, and that's how I became introduced to Las Vegas. I came here in 1970 and was a casino shift boss for a while. Went back to Tulsa to law school because in those days they didn't have a law school here in Nevada. So my brother and I both went back to Tulsa, went to law school, and came back out here.
Casino shift boss in the 70s?
Right.
So did you work for the mob?
Nope. Not that I'm aware of.
Is the property that you were at still here?
The Lady Luck Casino is where I started, and then I went to the Riviera.
So, Judge Mosley, you've sat on. You're the longest-serving judge in Clark County, correct, or Nevada?
I was before I retired 2 weeks ago. Yes.
And how long is that?
33 years or so. 33
years, and you must have seen a lot of stuff in your courtroom.
Well, yes, I have. I was exclusively overseeing criminal matters since 1997.
Which criminal matter comes to mind that just really just gets under your skin? You could talk about that, right?
Yes. Well, there's no question that sexual assault of children is an epidemic, and that really gets to you when you see these little 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old children on the stand testifying as to what happened to them. It just wrenches your heart.
And how many death penalty cases have you presided over?
You know, that's interesting, Steve. I started in 1983 in the district court overseeing death penalty cases. Peggy Wham was the first defendant that I dealt with years and years ago. And I don't know how many since, but I can tell you this, that of all the people that were sentenced to death out of my court, one has been executed so far in the last 25 years or so.
Why is that?
And that person was executed because he didn't want to appeal any longer. He gave up and said, just take me. So the death penalty does not work in the state of Nevada.
So people have been on death row for the past 25 years now?
Absolutely, sure.
So why don't you run for assembly or state legislator, or senate or something?
Well,
because I know that you were very outspoken in the city council and the county commission. So maybe you should run for one of those offices. I'm surprised I didn't see you on the ballot come Friday.
Well, I've been a public servant for 35 years. I'm kind of interested in raising some horses now and relaxing a little bit.
Come on, Judge, that's part-time. Being a state senator or a state assembly, that's part-time work. What, 4 months every 2 years? You could do that.
You think so?
Yeah.
Wouldn't get ulcers or...
No, you wouldn't get any ulcers because I think you'd probably be an intimidated figure. When you want something passed, I think people would they probably just do it.
Well, I think we'll leave it up to the doctor. She looks qualified to me.
Oh, yeah?
Aha. But you have that carrying voice, so, you'd get up in committee or in any legislative session, and I'm sure that people would have to listen to you.
They might listen. They don't necessarily have to agree, though.
Who's going to argue with you, though?
Well, there have been people in the past.
You know what? People talk about you through the years, and they ask me my opinion of you, and I said, "Well, Don Mosley he's a nice guy. I like him. We go weed. He's fun. We talk about guns. He's a good guy." And they go, "Well, you haven't been in this courtroom." I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" They go, "When he put that uniform on, it's like a light switch. He's just." I said, "Well, if you don't have your crap together, I guess he's going to chase you out." Is that true?
Well, what you're alluding to is something that I've been very conscious of for many years, hopefully not in myself necessarily, but people do sometimes gravitate from a citizen to a god when they put that robe on, and they call it robe fever, and you've heard things made
robe fever.
Yeah, and that's to me that is not the way to do business. You have to be consistent. Right. You have to be fair-minded. You have to listen to the other people, and then you have to make a decision. You can't put it off and gee whiz, maybe I'll do this and maybe I'll do that. You make a decision. Of course, our legal system is an adversarial system, so people are going to leave the court unhappy,
right?
And that's what the situation is.
I know that a lot of attorneys, when they talk about you, they say that when you go in Judge Mosley's courtroom, you know exactly what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So you are fair and precise and have that same tone when you go take that bench.
Well, I would say this: you have to evaluate each case individually, but you have to be consistent in the way that you mete out punishment or the way that you feel something should be dealt with. So it's a kind of an awkward situation in a sense, but you find your ground after a while as a judge. You learn, you kind of have your way of doing things, and if it's fair, you keep it up, and it works well.
So why did you leave the bench, Judge? Why did you all of a sudden, did you think about retirement for a couple of years, or why didn't you wait till your term is up?
Well, I was eligible to retire, and I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, on horses, and you can't really have a horse here in Las Vegas very well, or at least ride it out here in the desert.
If you go to Ward 6,
go to Ward 6. But I just, it's time for a change. Once in a while, you need to get out and do something a little different.
Right. So you just decided. How long did this process take you before you actually left the bench? To decide to leave the bench.
Oh, I don't know, really. It wasn't a conscious thing. I mulled over for months and years necessarily. I became eligible,
right.
And it was just a practical thing to do, and so I did it.
So who'd you want to see fill your seat?
Well,
those are big shoes to fill.
There's no way to tell who will actually apply. There's usually 15 or 20 people that apply for appointments, and the governor will make the decision. I'd like someone, hopefully, similar to myself.
Do you plan on being in the Judicial Selection Committee on that one?
Well, no, I wouldn't be in that committee. You have to be invited into that, and I don't think I've received an invitation yet.
Okay. So, Judge Mosley, in the years you sat on the bench, how do you feel if these service members coming back from the combat zone with their mental state of mind, and that there is not a veterans court within the district court system?
Well, the servicemen go out and do a tremendous job for our citizens, and we need to be aware of that, and we need to take care of them when they come home. And what you're alluding to is the situation where we see people have some psychological problems, and sometimes they have economic problems. You see a lot of, well, not a lot perhaps, but a number of veterans on the street. And that's just shameful. We ought to do something to help them get back into the mainstream of society.
Okay. What about these coroner's inquests and these police shootings? How does that? What's your take?
I don't really have an opinion there. I haven't been close to the process. It hasn't been something that I've dealt with. Obviously, we need to have these things looked at, but I think they need to be as non-adversarial as possible and make more of a fact-finding situation.
Okay.
But I'll take exception to something you made mention of, and that is that you like to see everyone that's a public official be challenged in an election. I can speak to the judicial situation, and I can tell you that I rarely support anyone that is filing against an incumbent unless they have a good reason. Now, if an incumbent needs to be replaced, that's fine, and I can name a couple. I won't, but I could name a couple in the past.
Come on, Judge, you're retired. Name a few.
No, I'm going to talk about in the past. But here's the reason why we should not challenge judges unnecessarily. First of all, it takes a judge about 10 to 12 months off the bench, about 50% of the time. He or she is running a campaign. You cannot run a court and a campaign simultaneously and do both justice. And so that takes the judge off his job or her job for a period of about a year. Number two, when you replace a judge, that doesn't need to be replaced, by the way, that person has an investment. Our country has, our community has an investment in that person. All the training that's manifested, you have to actually go to these different seminars and go to these judicial colleges. You have all that experience, and all of a sudden that's all gone. We have some new person who all the person can offer is ambition, basically, and an opportunity to retrain them. And so it's wasteful. So I oppose these people that just file because they file repeatedly. Finally, their name catches on and they get elected, and they've created such havoc in the judicial system.
Well, you've seen the current filings now. What judges would you?
we have quite a variety.
What judges would you like to see leave?
We have an unprecedented number of people filing against the incumbent judges in this election. I think a lot of it's because of the economy. Some of the attorneys just aren't making the money that they like to make, and so they're filing for these posts. But there's quite a number of them, as you know.
I know there's 2 district court seats and 2 justice of the peace seats? 3. Is it 3 justice of the peace seats? I forget. But no, it's 2 justice of the peace seats. In the 2 district court seats, who do you want to see go?
You know, of all the judges that are being challenged, I honestly can say at Justice Court and District Court that there's not one that I would like to see replaced.
Okay. You're not just saying that, are you?
And I wouldn't be shy about it. I can remember some in the past that I would be very happy to announce.
You're pretty blunt. You're pretty blunt.
Now, were they taken out in an election cycle, those that you were unhappy with?
Absolutely. One in particular I can think of.
And who's that?
Well, Jackie Glass filed against that person. I'll just leave it there.
Okay. Oh, I know who you're talking about. Judge Mosley, you're quite vocal in the city council, like I mentioned earlier. What do you think about this Ward 2 race?
Well, now that I'm retired, I can support a candidate, and I support Mr. Beers.
Bob Beers.
Mr. Truesdale has been death to neighborhoods as long as I've known him, and I would not want to see him on the city council.
Wow, so you support Bob Beers?
Absolutely.
And you're a registered Democrat, is that correct?
I am.
Wow.
But I vote for the person primarily.
Okay. Well, you know, with that note, I'd like to take a commercial break. This is Steve Sanson and Dr. Annette Teijeiro, candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 5. We'll be back momentarily with Donald Mosley, retired Clark County District Court Judge.
Hey you, this is Vince here on the Talk with Vince show, where no subject is off the table. We'll explore the depths of your mind. Spirituality, we talk it. Enlightenment, we talk it. Politics, we talk that too. Ufology, you want it, you got it. Conspiracy facts, we're on it. Sex, we talk it. So join me every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. for Talk with Vince here on VegasAllNetRadio.com. Talk that will blow your mind.
Americans have been fooled by politicians about illegal immigration. They make you think that if you bring up this topic, you are a racist. Did you know that America is the only country on this planet that does not enforce its federal immigration laws? For the fear of being called a racist, I am for legal immigration. I was born on the island of Jamaica, became an American citizen, served 12 years in the U.S. military, served in Desert Storm, and received a Presidential Unit Citation, National Defense Medal, and Marine Corps Commendation. Our immigration laws serve a purpose. I understand that this country was founded on immigration, but there is a wrong way and a right way. I'm here to tell you that illegal immigration is breaking our federal laws. Why don't you call me a racist? This is Steve Sanson.
This is Jim Jonas asking you to listen to Veterans in Politics. Veterans in Politics is a weekly broadcast internet talk show hosted by myself, Jim Jonas, and Steve Sanson, president of Veterans in Politics Incorporated, that airs every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. at www.vegasallnetradio.com. Veterans in Politics' sole purpose is to teach, educate, and inform veterans on issues and the candidates that will affect them. Too many politicians say they support veterans and their issues, but their actions tell a different story. Here at Veterans in Politics, we will expose these politicians by giving them a chance to come in and explain their actions to veterans so veterans can truly make informed decisions. Listen every Saturday to stay informed and to hold politicians accountable for their votes.
Well, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Dr. Annette Teijeiro. I have to put that name on my tongue. Candidate for Nevada State Assembly, candidate Senate District 5. We're back with Donald Mosley, retired Clark County District Court Judge. Judge Mosley, your last official decision in your courtroom, what was that about?
Well, you're alluding to the marijuana situation, but in all fairness, Steve, that's an impending case that's going to be appealed, and so I don't think it's fair to let comment on the thing actually.
But you can't be. They're not going to get testimony from you, are they?
No, but the ethics requirements say that you can't comment on a pending or impending case. Now, granted, that's as a judge, but I'm also a lawyer, and I think I need to kind of adhere to those principles.
Do you still have to maintain your attorney status?
I don't have to.
Being on the bench. While you're on the bench, you still have to maintain your attorney status?
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about illegal immigration then. What's your feelings on that? Should we just send them all back? What's going on?
Well, it's a difficult question. I have been honored in the past by being asked to go to the federal courthouse and swear in our immigrants to make them citizens, and to have 25 or 30 of those people stand and raise their hand and swear to be citizens of our country and respect our laws. It's a wonderful thing, and they enjoy it, and I enjoy it. And I do not think it's fair to have people sneak into this country, hide out for 3, 4, 5 years, and then have some politician say, we're going to give you amnesty, so now you can be a citizen. That's not fair to the people that do it correctly, and it sends a message internationally is that all you got to do to be a citizen of the United States is just sneak in here and break the law long enough, and if you're successful, some politician will make you a citizen. To me, that's wrong.
Have you ever deported anyone that was in front of your court for criminal matters?
Well, deportation has to do with the Immigration Service, which is federal. I have sentenced many people who are waiting to be deported, and I give them probation, essentially, and require that they have to obey the immigration laws. So if they're sent back to their country of origin and they come back illegally, then they're in violation of my probation. I can put them in prison. So it's an added incentive for them not to come back illegally.
Okay. I want to get back to the in relation to the coroner's inquest. What's your personal take on former District Attorney David Roger investigating police shootings and then all of a sudden taking the job with the PPA?
Well, I don't know that I have an opinion, really. He was 50 years old. It was a little early to retire, I suppose, but a person has to make a decision as far as their careers are concerned.
Do you think that there was a conflict, maybe?
If it was, I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't in the circle.
Okay, all right. Doc, you got anything for Judge Mosley?
Oh my goodness! All his wisdom of all his years of judging. I'd love to have that.
It's been quite an experience.
So, what's next for Donald Mosley?
I'm going to keep my home here in Las Vegas. I'm going to buy a ranch up in northern Nevada or perhaps southern Utah.
You want me to home sit for you?
You can come and break horses with me.
No, I wanted to home sit the house here.
Oh, I see. I don't think you get along with my dog. He's pretty mean.
What kind of dog?
I've got a couple of Springer Spaniels that are my hunting dogs.
All right, Judge Mosley, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's been my pleasure.
And I know it was a last-minute thing as well. That this program was a last-minute program. Everybody just wants to. I suppose I have Michael McDonald, who's running for state party chair, and he had something was going on, and then Vincent Ginn, who's running against Judge Lippis, and he backed out. I think because we endorsed Judge Lippis' candidacy. So, anyways, What was a good show? Wasn't it a good show, Doc?
It was a great show.
Dr. Annette Teijeiro, I want to thank you for coming on the show as well.
No problem.
You're not as talkative as I wanted you to be, and I wanted you to interrupt me and put me on the floor.
Oh, my goodness. You didn't tell me I could interrupt you.
This is Steve Sanson with hopefully Jim Jonas will be back next week. Veterans in Politics. I'd like to thank all my guests and make sure that everybody find out who these candidates are before you vote.
God bless the